The 16th of June is Robin's birthday. Offline. You gave me a book when we met, one you recommended in an email, one you enjoyed and said was being released as a movie in a weekend. Maybe we could see it when it came out. I took that as a good sign. You bought it for me the same day of the required meet and greet between online connection and official date. You bought it at the bookstore where we met in the cafe, where we met IRL, in real life. Do they still say IRL now that people's life online is more real to them than any lie they live off? A question for another time. I never told you this before, but I saw you buying the book. I didn't know it was you at the time. I just saw a woman from the back pick up a book, Derailed, by James Siegel, the one you told me about, and I wondered if it was you. Quite the coincidence if it wasn't. Then I worried if maybe it wasn't such a good sign. Derailed before we even got started. As it turns out, I had nothing to worry about. You say when you first saw me, I was wearing a cape. I wasn't. Though after more than a decade, you still don't believe me. You say we were captivated. You were captivated by the man in that cape, so I let it go. For me, it was squirrel milk and yeah. Squirrel milk and yeah. After introducing ourselves and settling into an awkward seating arrangement, the last two seats in the cafe, you in a tall stool and me in a low chair, though it never felt as if you were looking down on me, I asked you what you wanted in your coffee. You said milk. I said I checked and all they had was squirrel milk. I don't know why I said it, but I did. And without missing a beat, you said, I wonder how they get the milk from the squirrel. We bantered back and forth about the logistics of milking squirrels. We talked about it for a while, probably longer than anyone should, until you declared that squirrel milk just wouldn't cut it. I asked if black was okay, and you smiled and said, yeah, just like that. You looked me right in the eyes and let out a breathy, yeah. And suddenly, I couldn't catch my breath. So I caught yours, and that was it. I have no idea what we talked about over tea and black coffee. Obviously, this was years before you gave me the ultimatum of drinking coffee or getting a dog. Story for another time. But when we were through, having met and greeted and fallen in love, I asked, may I call you? And you answered, I will be waiting with great anticipation. And you did, and I did, and here we are, still looking for that cape in the closet, still trying to figure out how to milk a squirrel. Still in love? Yeah. Thank you. It had snowed just before I saw it, and the forecast called for more as somewhere in the west, highs crashed into lows along a violent border. But there it stood, a robin perched in holly amid thorny leaf and red berry, buffeted by March's insistent claim on winter. A rare sight as misplaced in time and clime as our unexpected love, and just as surprising. There it stood, promising spring would come, a promise that seemed impossible to keep in such a frigid, dark season. Yet spring came, as did summer and autumn. The robin survived thaw, built its nest, then made itself scarce again. Remembering the shock of that too early arrival, it left. But you stayed. Knowing what may come, you stayed, keeping every promise made in a once bleak winter. You stayed, perched safely in my heart. It's a Wonderful Life. It had been an Uncle Billy lost the cash, stopped this Christmas from coming, Santa sat on a throne of lies, Bumble kidnapped Clarice, my tongue stuck to a flagpole, I've got no gift to bring, clang, clang, Bellevue, bah humbug kind of year. But just seeing you there that Christmas morning, Donna Reed in pearls, doing the ironing? Well, God bless us, everyone. I believe. I got my Red Ryder carbine action 200 shot range model air rifle with a compass in the stock and this thing that tells time. I played my drum for him. I led Santa's sleigh. I was in love and I didn't care who knew it. And like the Grinch, my heart grew 3 sizes that day. Attaboy, Clarence.
I'm going to do a couple of love poems to start off with. This is called a Demented Love Poem. It's about my wife, Robin. So, Oliver Sacks, the dead brain guy who wrote a lot of books, had his patient named Henry who got into an accident and couldn't remember anything for more than 10 seconds or something. I mean, you could walk into his room and he'd say, "Hello, nice to meet you." But he would blow his nose or look away, and when he looked back and saw you again, he'd say, "Hello, nice to meet you." The funny thing is, he remembered things and people from his past. So if a member of his family or somebody he liked in the past came in, he'd really be happy to see them, and he'd say, "Hello!" and give them a big hug every time, all over again, every 10 seconds. At least that's how I remember the story. Like, I remember everything now, imperfectly. I know lots of people my age have lousy memories. It comes from being old, even though I don't really think of myself as being old, but ask someone not in their 60s, and if they're not being polite, when it comes down to it, they consider someone my age old. And to tell the truth, if you give me the number and I don't apply it to me, I consider it old too. Anyway, I'm scared of Alzheimer's. And when I'm not scared of Alzheimer's, I'm scared of dementia, which I think is just a simpler way of saying Alzheimer's. It's an unreasonable fear, I guess. There's no history of it in my family, but I'm suggestible, and I watched a lot of TV, and Alzheimer's and dementia were used as a plot device in a bunch of TV shows in the 90s, like Law and Order and ER. But I do remember how they portrayed the people who suffered from it. They couldn't remember things that were happening in the present. Not as severely as the Oliver Sacks guy, but they couldn't remember things from the recent past, like the faces of their adult kids. But they did remember things from the distant past, like maybe the faces of their adult kids when they were teenagers. It was like there was this cutoff point or something where they would stop remembering things. I don't know, it may all be BS. So why am I telling you this? Well, we've only been married for 11 years. It's been the happiest time of my life, and I don't want to forget it. I don't want to forget you. I want us to live long enough that the cutoff point includes us, the life we're living now. So that if someday I do get Alzheimer's or suffer from dementia or get into an accident like that Oliver Sacks guy, when I see you, I remember you and how much I love you and greet you with a giant over-the-top "Hello!" every 10 seconds.
Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and stare at you. Hope that doesn't sound too creepy. You see, you smile when you sleep. A beautiful, peaceful smile, and I just can't turn away. Sometimes you wake up and catch me staring. Then your smile widens to a grin. And in a slumber sweetened whisper you say, "You're loving me, aren't you?" Yes, I am.